My dear friends, thinkers, gamers, welcome back to Tales of Praxis. I'm your host, Aaron Suduko, the founder of With a Terrible Fate, your online passion publication dedicated to all and only the best literary studies of your favorite video games. Kicking things off a couple of minutes early today in hopes of compensating for the couple of minutes late stream on Monday. I put in the effort to try my level-headed best to resolve the technical issues that we had, especially with the mic. I don't think it's perfect. I'm fairly confident it sounds better now. My working hypothesis is I think the cord I have is not great and might just be at the end of its life, so I have another one in the mail on its way to me, but it's not going to be here until tomorrow, so we're working with the best we've got at the moment. I did have to tinker with the sound a decent amount, so I did a decent amount of testing with that, and it will therefore hopefully be well balanced between my voice and the game. But as always, if the balance is not perfect, you just let me know. You're always happy to tinker with that stuff live. Oh, all right, Grail. Looks like our intrepid friend Grail will be able to join us at least for a little while this evening, although perhaps not for the whole stream. Grail, glad to have you with us, my friend, for all and only the time we have you, no matter how great or small that might be. So nice to have you there. For those who may be joining more recently than Grail, Tales of Praxis is the analytical article and stream series that I've been running for With a Terrible Fate for the past several months, studying Namco's Tales JRPGs in terms of the language of their storytelling, how the different entries in the series relate to each other as works of art, and also the broader influence that they've had in the storytelling of games. We did that first with Tales of Symphonia and Dawn of the New World. Then we worked through Tales of Zestiria and its DLC, and now we are on to its prequel, which came out back in 2017, Tales of Berseria, and just getting into it. So if you're just discovering us, you are coming at a apropos time. Settle in for what I've taken to calling a real-life JRPG party, and also a bit of a Twitch-style book club, digging into the literary content of these games on a live basis. As we settle in for the evening and get ready to dive back into Berseria, wanted to shout out a few things just by way of situating us. First, for those who are either already familiar with the series of podcasts that's being run by my friend and colleague Dan Hughes, or if you just love Pokemon, love the storytelling of video games, and want something to listen to, a new episode in his series Pokemon Rose dropped yesterday. It's fantastic. I strongly encourage you to check it out. I'll drop the link in the chat. It's called Welcome to Sinnoh. Dan is billing it, and you'll hear this when you listen to the episode, as the start of season 2 of this podcast that he's been doing, in which he's doing something pretty similar to what we've been doing for the Tales games, namely going back through and reviewing all of the Pokemon games through the lens of the personal meaning that they had to him throughout the years, and also how he sees them as interestingly interrelated and more complex than you might expect works of art and works of storytelling. This one's really cool because one of the reasons he's kicking off what he calls season 2 of the podcast is that with the start of Gen 4, he's now going to be talking about games that he only went back to and played as an adult, and he actually never got to as a kid. And so you'll see one of the things he calls out in this episode is that Generation 4 he now thinks of as some of the most meaningful and well put together Pokemon games, but he also thinks that he wouldn't have had that same impression of them if he had played them as a kid. Namely, it's only because he was able to first get exposure to them as an adult that he now holds them in such high regard. So really interesting perspective, especially if you're an adult gamer who maybe loved a lot of game series as a kid but didn't hit every entry in those series. This can be good food for thought to actually go back and play some of the ones that you missed. Yeah, I mean, Grail, I don't know that Dan would disagree with you on that front. He's gearing up to say a lot of interesting things about Gen 4, and it sounds like we're going to be in Gen 4 with him for a while. Yeah, and you can be nostalgic and also unbiased with your views on games. I think that's perfectly consistent. Also, because it's a kickoff episode for Dan, he largely is like giving an introduction to Sinnoh and what he's going to talk about without talking about it as such. So I asked him before I started the stream, I said, hey, is it okay if I tease the next episode for people on the stream so they have an extra special sneak preview of it? And he said, oh, yes, definitely do that. What he's going to be talking about this coming week is all about mythopoeia, which, if you're not familiar with that term, is a religious studies term, and Dan's background is in East Asian religious studies, and it's a term that refers to basically origin stories or myths about the creation of the universe, in which religions are oftentimes rooted, and the various tenets and beliefs of the religion are explained according to that kind of history of the world and universe and creation. And so he's going to be talking about how Gen 4 actually creates that kind of mythopoeia for Pokemon. And so to tease a bit of his script, which he actually sent me, he said, in the beginning, there was naught but chaos. It was in this swirling miasma that a lone egg was formed, and it was through that lone egg that time and space, as we understand it, came to be. So he told me a little bit more about the context for that and how it's working into the things he wants to talk about. But he already talked a little bit about how some of the earlier generations took really interesting and bold steps in building up a mythology of the Pokemon world, which, especially if you just looked at Red and Blue, there was no reason that they had to go in that direction. But especially to someone like Dan, it makes all the difference that they did. So that's what he's going to be talking about this coming week. Take a listen to the episode and get geared up and excited for that. It also features a new theme song for the podcast, which was actually put together by another dear friend and colleague of the site, Stefan Heinrich Simond, who is a multi-talented game scholar from Germany. So Stefan, shout out to you. I'm going to hit you up to thank you personally. I haven't been able to do that yet because I've been busy, but it's an amazing, very Pokemon sounding introduction to this Pokemon podcast. So take a listen. Let us know what you think about that as well. I will say, just because I've kind of been half chronicling my journey through Vesperia on the last few streams, I think it's safe to say finish my playthrough at this point. I'm debating whether I'm ready to put it down because there's still like a small little sliver of side content that I haven't quite done yet, but I did most of the things that I was really excited about and wanted to do. And so now I'm definitely in full processing mode, just thinking about it. I think it's definitely one of those games where I'm going to force myself to write about it, A, because I felt a lot about the various parts of the game, but also B, for me and the way that I think about JRPGs and stories in general, there are some where I feel like I just have to write it down and try to build a theory of it in order to understand what the heck is going on. And I think especially because Vesperia's definitive edition ended up taking me probably twice as long as my average playthrough of a Tales game, it's definitely going to be one of those games for me where I won't feel like I really understand it until I sit down and put all the pieces together. One thing that I did want to shout out, fans and regulars of the stream will know that I was doing this playthrough maining Rapide, the dog character, in honor of my own favorite little Rapidlet over here, Evie, my little girl, who's taken up her typical streaming spot as well. And I think I'm definitely going to have to do a character study of Rapide as one of the things that I talk about, because I truly started out just saying that, well, he'll be the one I use in battle because I want to be able to kind of play this game through with my dog and have that be special and meaningful. But he ended up having way more of an impact on my experience of the story and what it was trying to say than I expected. Like Vesperia does some cool stuff in its end game where like you have different conversations with the final boss without giving too much away based on who your lead character in the party is. And the conversation that he had with Rapide, a dog of all things, actually helped me put a lot of the pieces together in terms of like what the plot of Vesperia was about and what it was trying to say and what the meaning of the party's resistance to the plot was. which I was not expecting from a conversation between a man and dog, but there you go. And one of the last side quests that I did, which was part of what really extended my playtime and felt like a slog, but in the end was worth it for me, was actually one of Rapide's side quests where, true to there being a dog character in the party, one of the things you can do is encounter Rapide's rival and literally go in a worldwide pissing contest to mark all of the territory as Rapides, which I would definitely rank in, like, maybe not my top 5, but at least top 10 in terms of most mechanically challenging and just frustrating and monotonous side quests. Like, it was very hard to do, especially once you get down to the end of it. It gets exponentially harder if you're not carefully keeping track of it the whole time. But again, it ended up functioning as and representing for me such a cool microcosm of a lot of the game's main themes that were harder to see in the macroscopic context of the 120-hour game, because a lot of what Rapide and his rival argue about boils down to the essence of what's at stake in the final confrontation between the party and the final boss of the game. So for a game not just to include a dog character as fan service or something gimmicky or unusual, but actually to think that much about the way to give that character special meaning that resonates with his nature as a dog and his nature as a character in the world of Vesperia and what Tales of Vesperia is trying to talk about, I think is really only the kind of thing that you get with the deft hands of the storytellers of the Tales series. And I definitely want to think more about that and probably write a little bit about what my man Rapide taught me. Yeah, see, you get Grail gets it. Of course you get it, Grail. We're always on the same page. I was so unexpectedly moved by that scene. Yeah, and talk about quotable Tales villains, right? We're right back to this conversation that we've had many times, you and I, Grail, over the last few streams. That is such a great line. And it's amazing. Like, I wanted to look more into the voice acting of Rapide because you're right. The words that are given to his speech are so hilarious in the context of the final confrontation. But I played it through more than once just because I really wanted it to sink in. And like the voice acting behind something even as simple as a bark was really like emotive and struck the right notes. And just I was actually kind of, I will admit freely on this stream because people watching Tales of Praxis will get it, basically moved to tears by this pretty simple but resonant scene between the final boss and a dog who speaks in barks and whimpers and sniffs more than anything else. Yeah, Grail, he does have that dog in him. That's so true. One of the things that I'm thinking I need to write Vesperia out in order to understand is the overall structure of its story, and I think the third act is one of the big things that's kind of hard to locate and therefore motivating that for me. I'll say right now, as I'm kind of in the early stages of thinking it through, there are kind of two directions that are maybe not at odds with each other, but are at least pulling my mind in different directions that I want to explore. One is, I think, like we talked about a little bit a few days ago, there seems to be, once you go through the side quests and understand sort of everything that's going on behind the scenes, a relatively clear and relatively standard JRPG arc from the beginning of the game to the confrontation and defeat of Alexei. And the game seems very self-consciously aware of that. Like, they really big up, in typical Tales fashion, the night before you go off to the Shrine of Zaude to face Alexei, with everyone having the understanding that basically he is the big bad, the monster at the end of the book, the final boss, whatever you want to call it. And so I think one direction in which you can start to think about how the third act might fit in is if you ask yourself, well, okay, what if you take the first two acts of the game as kind of your typical self-contained JRPG plot, and then think of the third act as kind of dealing with the questions of what comes in the aftermath of that kind of final confrontation and what it means for people in the world to keep on living and make sense of their place in the world after that threat is gone and the world has changed. Similar questions to the kind of stuff that we talked about and which came up in our playthrough of Dawn of the New World, because even though that's not an additional act to Tales of Symphonia, the kind of sequel that it is raises a lot of questions in that same vein. So that's one. The second one that I think I was talking about a little on the last stream, because I had just finished the Necropolis of Nostalgia at that point, is besides the question of how like the three acts of the main game fit together, there's also this interesting dichotomy between the final boss you face in the main game and the fact that he is not quite the normal kind of villain who waits at the end of the JRPG, not really the one who is seeking to bring about some evil scheme whom you have to destroy in order to save the world. It's a very different kind of confrontation, and I'll try not to spoil that much for people who haven't played it, but Grail, you obviously know what I'm talking about. Versus in the Necropolis of Nostalgia, where it's a very long, completely optional slog to uncover this entire other layer to the world that provides a lot more of the world's history and also leads you to a more traditional JRPG style final boss who has kind of an unexpectedly special and important standing relative to like the history of how the world was created and the conflicts that brought everything about, that, you know, everyone in the world is wrestling with really throughout the whole plot line of Tales of Vesperia. I also noticed one thing that didn't stand out to me the first time I played through this most recent playthrough of the game, but then I noticed when I went back and played the ending again, was there really is a sense in which even though the Necropolis of Nostalgia is optional, it's kind of like the game wants you to do it before you finish the game. And what I mean by that is, without too many spoilers, again, for people who haven't played Vesperia, one of the ways in which the final boss of Vesperia is unusual is the final confrontation actually changes depending on whether or not you've acquired all of the Devil's Arms as a party. In Vesperia, they're called the Fell Arms, but it's the same mechanics in terms of how they function. And in the definitive edition of Vesperia, where they add this whole Necropolis of Nostalgia and this whole extra giant optional dungeon, they also, because they're adding 2 more party members to the final act of the game, add 2 more Fell Arms, and they put those in the Necropolis of Nostalgia as if to say, in order to complete the confrontation with the final boss of the main game, you actually have to make the effort to go through this optional area and collect these additional optional weapons. That makes me feel like there's something interesting to say beyond just the 3-act structure about what it is that the Necropolis of Nostalgia has to say about the main plot, and how optional content relates to mandatory content in just the story of Vesperia in general. Because it's one of those games where, like, it's weird actually, Grail, because I don't know if you've seen this online. When I see people talk about Vesperia, for whatever reason, a lot of them default to saying it's about vigilante justice, which, like, that's definitely in the game, but to me, playing through it again, that strikes me as such a small part of it, and more as a consequence of the main ideas it wants to talk about, rather than the heart of what the game is saying and what it's thinking about. Oh yeah, 20 times at least, which I think is also part of it, right? I think those are the kinds of questions we want to be asking when we say, wow, here's this, like, for all intents and purposes, a basically literal god who lurks imprisoned at the heart of the world and is by a mile the hardest thing you will ever have to face in that game, in most Tales games, I would say. And it stands in that relation to the actual final boss. Like, what does that say about this world and the things they are meant to face? I feel like the thing that comes up for me over and over again in Vesperia is actually an interesting echo of a lot of the stuff we talked about in Zestiria, namely the importance of autonomy and being able to, like, know enough about yourself and the world to make your own decisions and chart your own life, but also how, ironically, it's only with that capacity for self-determination that then you can really recognize how much you depend on others and team up with others on your own terms in order to achieve things that wouldn't be possible if it were just you in isolation. That's the kind of theme when you start talking about things like understanding what it is that you want to do, making decisions on your own terms, where it's very easy to immediately start thinking about what is optional versus what is required. And then suddenly you have a way into connecting the themes of the game to the actual gameplay and structural mechanics of asking, okay, which parts of this plot are required, mandatory, which parts are optional, side quests, and how do the interrelations between the characters that feature in those different parts of the game relate to what the game might be saying in terms of themes. So that's like the kind of stuff that I'm going to be wrestling with as I think through the game. It's a weird puzzle, and I get why I didn't have a great time with it the first time. I get why a lot of people don't give it the time of day, because I think it does have something interesting and unified to say, but I think it's pretty hard to wrap your hands around it just because there's so much content and it goes off in many different directions. Another thing that's kind of related, Grail, and you'll appreciate this, something else that I'm weighing and I think might be a way into helping me to figure out these issues is in Vesperia, you also get over and over again this theme of kind of, I don't think it's right to say the value of mystery, but something like that. The fact that oftentimes either there are going to be things in the world that are unexplained, or even if you can ultimately come up with an explanation, that doesn't really matter. What matters more is kind of what you think about it and the experiences that you have with it. That takes a lot of different faces. One kind of obvious example from the endgame content is the other EX dungeon. I think it's called the Maze of Memories or something like that. I'm blanking on its name. But the whole conceit is actually kind of similar to what happened in the EX dungeon of Zestiria. You know, there's this kind of mysterious disembodied voice that pulls you into this kind of metaphysical pocket universe, and there's never really an explanation of exactly who that voice is or what it's trying to achieve, but the party members talk about how that's kind of the point, and how after exhausting like everything else about the world, it's kind of cool and special that there are mysteries that are still unanswered. And when you start thinking about it through that lens, you start to pick up on a lot of other elements of the game that are similarly kind of couched in the mysterious or not looking for an explanation. And that got me thinking, well, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of compare and contrast that attitude towards mystery with the attitude of mystery in Tales of the Abyss? Because in the article that I published on Tales of the Abyss a few months ago, my entire focus was on the idea of esotericism and kind of different levels of meaning that go from the literal to the mysterious, and kind of that special sort of spiritual content that is only intelligible to the initiated in religious traditions like Jewish mysticism, which was what I was drawing on and what Tales of the Abyss draws on. Two really interesting attitudes towards mystery, but I think very different ones between those two games. And so I think that might be a way into kind of trying to wrap our arms around what Vesperia is trying to say as well. So definitely going to dig in and try to at least scaffold some of that out in like outline form before we move on to other stuff here. What was it that you screenshotted? I missed the reference to what you were saying. You screenshotted. That was funny. I imagine I probably screenshotted it too if it was a funny moment. I took way too many screenshots in Vesperia. Okay, so you can tell me this, Grail, because when I was saying there was like some stuff in Vesperia that I hadn't done yet, and I wasn't sure whether to take the time to do because I was just kind of gassed from the game's extra content and wasn't sure if it would make a difference. I did know that doing the second EX dungeon unlocked more to the Colosseum. Is that worth taking the time to do before I put it down? Would you recommend it? Well, actually, I'll put it to you this way. Now that we've spent some time together and had some conversations about these games, do you think it's the kind of content that I would have things to say about? Like, would it be sufficiently interesting to spend the time to go through? Oh, yeah, that is a funny quote. Absolutely. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite Zelos quotes from Symphonia when you're in Welgaia and Mythos is doing his mind games before the final confrontation. What the heck is this funky place? I'm still laughing about that months after my playthrough of Tales of Symphonia Remastered. trying to see what else I wanted to call out here. Okay, so there are more cameo fights. All right, well, I'm that close anyway, and I did notice that the 100-man fights are a bit of a joke after getting to the level that you need to beat the Spiral Draco anyway. So I guess I might as well do it and report back. There you go. You've persuaded me, Grail. It didn't take much persuasion, obviously. One thing that I will shout out also as we're getting things going, and Grail, it looks like you might be the only one here right now, so I'll shout it out to you before you have to head off, but also to anyone else in our real-life JRPG party who trickles in or who's watching the VOD after the fact. Like I have said, as I'm wrapping on Vesperia, I obviously have plenty more of these games to get through as part of Tales of Praxis. I'm going to be playing through them more at some point, but I am going to try to take at least a bit of a concerted break from the games that I'm playing off stream in order to really focus on writing, because I'd love to get out some more of the many thoughts that we've been putting together and share them in written publication form. So I have a million ideas, but especially to people on the stream who have been following along, having these conversations. If there's anything about any of these Tales games that you'd be especially interested in seeing an article or analysis on, or if you spent some time talking with me and if you're thinking, oh man, I'd love to get Aaron's take on this particular part of a game or a couple games in conversation or the series as a whole, definitely let me know, because I have plenty of things I can write about, but it's really my hope that as Tales of Praxis continues to develop, we can get in a kind of feedback loop or virtuous cycle between the stream and the written articles so that both of them are kind of serving the other and creating this special kind of ecosystem celebrating the Tales series storytelling. So let me know. You can always shoot a message in the chat. You can tweet at me. You can tweet at the site. There are a million ways to reach us. But if you have an idea for something that you'd love to see me publish on, I am more than open to that. I aggressively welcome it, in fact. And the last thing that I'll say by way of introduction to bring us back from the macrocosm of the Tales series into being grounded in Tales of Berseria, I thought one Berseria food for thought for getting back into the stream was, we've talked off and on about the value of thinking of game mechanics as a storytelling device, and certainly that's come up in a huge range of one-off scenarios as we've been talking through and playing through the Tales games on the stream together. We talked about, for instance, like the narrative meaning of armatization and the hybridization of different characters with different goals, and how that overlaps with the whole ethos behind sharing dreams and valuing people's dreams and principles in Tales of Zestiria. We talked about kind of the gameplay value of what it is to judge and see a person and interpret them in all of the endgame choices that the player is given in Dawn of the New World. I wanted to quickly highlight one that I think will be really cool for us to keep an eye on in Berseria, and that has kind of already been at the forefront in our faces, even though we haven't talked about it. And that is just the symbol and game mechanic and narrative device of Velvet's arm, this big, grotesque hellion thing that she was kind of cursed with, kind of gifted with in the events of the Advent when Artorias did his ritual and sacrificed Laphicet and turned Velvet into what we know now, right? I think that's a really interesting case study for how mechanics, not just in kind of an aspect of the character you're controlling, but actually the gameplay of battles can fold back in on the story's themes. And it'll be interesting to keep in mind as we go forward. Like I was saying, already we've seen that the arm functions as a kind of mechanic for consuming others, which is a pretty direct and obvious symbol for the way that Velvet is literally and figuratively willing to consume anything around her and take every advantage that she can get purely in order to feed and fuel her one mission, which is revenge against Artorias, right? So even in just its monstrous presentation, it's a cool way of showing right off the bat how kind of grotesque but also powerful that drive for revenge is. And a drive, notice, that is something Artorias directly created. He was the one who gave her that arm. He was the one who gave her that nature. He was the one who gave her that revenge that is now fueling her, right? she seems to be turning that into a power and a skill in the story so far. But I think it's worth just keeping an eye on as Velvet's sense of herself evolves, as she figures out her place in the world and her relationship with Artorias. How does her relationship with her powers and that arm change as well? This kind of thinking about body parts was in the ether too when this was coming out. I mean, themes like prosthesis and sort of the augmentation of different appendages is something you get in all sorts of storytelling, but I had a feeling it might be, in the water in 2017, because that was also when we got stuff like Wolf's prosthetic arm in Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, which is another of my favorite examples of that kind of thing. She seems right now to be turning what could otherwise be a curse into a form of agency. But, as I was thinking about it as a form of empowerment and as something that gives her agency, Grail, I was actually reminded of something that you said on the last stream in terms of, again, the mechanics of actually playing as Velvet and controlling her in the party, because you said, and I already have noticed, once you have the ability to Therianize and use that arm as a tool in battle, it's almost so overpowered that you forget how to use the other game mechanics, because it's all just math of your soul gauge and when you're going to be able to next Therianize and beat the crap out of your enemies. So in a very similar way to Velvet, kind of drawing strength from her revenge quest, but also becoming addicted to that soul way of seeing and manipulating the world. As we're playing as Velvet, we're pretty closely and quickly becoming aligned with that sort of addiction to revenge by being addicted to the gameplay mechanic that is connected with the symbol representing her thirst for revenge. So I was thinking about that before the stream, and it struck me as a really good and kind of unexpectedly subtle case of gameplay-based symbolism in Berseria. Because again, it's funny, on one level, the arm is in your face, and we've already talked about how clear-cut a lot of the symbolism is in this game, so it's really priming you to think about symbols. But it's one of those where, as I was just saying, the more you stop and think about the nuances of the symbol in terms of how Velvet got her arm, how it relates to gameplay, what you're doing as a player, what Velvet's intentions are, it kind of unlocks these new systems of meaning, basically, for interpreting and thinking about the various nuances of the story in some pretty cool and robust ways. Grail, I appreciate you sharing the recommendation. I'm definitely excited for Hearts. That will not be something I'll be able to stop and write about now, because that's one that, as you know, I still have to play. But if you're trying to convince me to put the writing to the side for longer and play another Tales game, that's something else. It doesn't take much convincing for me to sit down and do. So look out. That just might happen. But especially given the combination of it being downplayed and how much you and others who have played it love it and recognize it as a hidden gem of the series, I'm really eager to give it its due in that regard. Ooh, Carol. Now that's something I could write about now for sure. Well, maybe as Zestiria. I keep, for whatever reason, mixing the names of Zestiria and Vesperia in my head. I guess because they're more phonetically close than one would expect. I guess while Vesperia is fresh in my head, and I'm thinking about character studies, Carol could be a really interesting one, especially, as you say, for all the reasons that we talk about. So thank you, Grail. I will put that in my idea folder right now so I don't forget and take it under advisement. And definitely, please do continue to think about if you have other ideas. My door is always open for that. I appreciate it. All right. I think that's the long and the short of where we are in Tales of Praxis, where I am in my thinking about the series, where we are in Berseria itself. We are on a mission now, after getting some grounding in the brave new world of Artorias and the Abbey, to steal a boat, maybe or maybe not rescue Magilu, who seems to be in the hands of the Abbey and may or may not have been conducting some subterfuge. We didn't quite see the full context of that last time. But Velvet has a plan, a two-pronged approach for raiding the town and trying to get one of the ships that is functioning, since theirs seems to be beyond repair. So let's dive into that. Pink Moon Neko, welcome. I was hoping you would show up. It's a pleasure to see you back. We just finished our opening riff, so you haven't missed any gameplay yet. Just a lot of conversation about Vesperia, the other games. I also shouted out, and I'll shout out again one more time just for your benefit since you're here now. I'm planning to reallocate some of the time that I'd been spending off stream playing other Tales games to now taking a step back and writing and publishing some more analyses of the games. So if you find yourself interested in an article or a written study or my take on any particular Tales game or character in a game or theme in a game or relationship between different games, anything at all that you might be interested in my take on or just seeing some work on that doesn't exist out there right now, you let me know, my friend. I want to make both aspects of Tales of Praxis work for the people who care the most about the series, both the stream and the written stuff. But yes, welcome back to the stream, my friends, and we are off to get a ship for ourselves.
I'll end this quickly.
Having more troubles with your challenge run, Grail? Share your woes with me. Bemoan the game to someone who gets it. Is it another boss who's giving you trouble, perhaps?
Just wait until I pull out the good stuff.
Wow, so when I see it laid out like that, it's funny, I had been feeling like so far this combat system read as simpler in my head than Zestiria's was. But look at that, there are basically now 4 different types of arts, whereas in Zestiria there were just 3, right? In Zestiria you had martial, hidden, and seraphic arts. Now we have martial, hidden, Malak arts, and the break soul, a 4th type. So maybe it's not that this is less complex. Maybe it's just something about the organization and the presentation of the complexity that makes it seem more intelligible or intuitive. I'll have to keep an eye on that as we go forward.
Who goes there?
Oh, I'm pretty sure you were expecting me.
And it's on!
Not even worth my time.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good time, Grail. Video games are fair and balanced. I was like, I forget which Vesperia boss it was, but I was fighting one of them in the late game that did a mystic art, or some equivalently ridiculous art, that reduced my whole party to 1 HP, and also dazed everyone, so we had no recourse to recover from it, and the boss just took its sweet time wasting my entire party. It was great. I felt like I had a chance.
I was right. It's a trap.
It's always a tarp. Yeah, I feel like half the time prevent status ailments is like some secret double speak for saying there's like a 1% better chance that you'll avoid one, which is not that great at the end of the day. Like, I found that with Vesperia as well, because they have like several different tiers of equipment for preventing status effects. And somehow, no matter which one I equipped, it was always whichever one like saved you from every status effect except the one that the enemy decided to apply. It's part of what makes it so fair and balanced.
Wow, look who actually showed up to rescue me. Oh, you're more of a softie than I ever gave you credit for, demon lady.
You're here. You're the demon that escaped the island?
What if I am?
You hurt my dear Oscar. You will pay for that. Slowly.
I fucking love my brother so much!
Come and face me then, exorcist!
I am honor bound to aid her.
Beware her left arm!
I feel kind of let down that they couldn't animate the whole party of exorcists standing by in the background here. In my head, I feel like that wouldn't have been that hard. And it feels like it's weirdly breaking the reality of the world that they're establishing for us to just have... Oh, well, I guess we have more flowing in from the side. That's a little bit of the same effect, but still not quite the same thing.
Demons should be simple for you.
I want the feeling of like the iconic Thousand Heartless battle in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Who wants to taste my blade next?
Yeah, I feel like half of the status effects in the game I only saw in the final battle, actually, Grail in Berseria. Like a lot of the magic ailments, I feel like there's basically no enemies in the whole world that inflict them until then the final boss. He gets around with his ailments, there's no doubt about that. Which kind of makes sense in context, I guess, in terms of the story and kind of the meaning of the final boss, but still hard to play around for sure. A little like Mythos and Tales of Symphonia, though. I mean, you get something similar with all the status ailments he inflicts.
I admire your endurance, but you will regret this soon enough. Number 2.
You can't finish your own work. Coward.
I won't fall for your taunts. That arm of yours is too dangerous.
Yeah, we're already talking about the arm.
Besides, to dispose of demon filth, one ought to use an appropriate tool.
Well, I've got tools of my own. Tools of flamestone, sulfur, and oil.
Those will explode.
Astute observation, dear Malak.
What? Our stores of flamestone!
Rokuro!
I'm with you.
Goodbye!
Hey! Aren't you forgetting someone?
No!
What are you all doing? After them!
Lady Teresa, the ships, the port.
Teresa! I was killing myself over here trying to remember her name. Lady Teresa and her brother Oscar.
Release. Put out the fires at once!
Move it. We're ready to set sail.
I don't know if that shot was supposed to be that funny, but that might be the funniest thing I've seen in a Tales game in like tens of hours. Oh no. Lady Teresa. I don't want to hurt the Malakim. Gotta go after Teresa, I guess.
I'm a demon. Spare me your sins.
Maybe we have to, though. I feel like they're gonna deal some pretty serious magic damage to us if we don't deal with them. The Malakim, I mean. This is cool, too. I don't know if there's going to be a more appropriate time to pause. So I was just thinking about kind of if you take a step back and look at the whole set piece here of the burning town. We've already been talking a lot about the ways in which Berseria subverts a lot of what you expect coming into it from other Tales games. And this so vividly puts me in mind of either the start of Symphonia, when the Desians set fire to Isilia, or even Dawn of the New World with the Blood Purge, it was called, right? When Palmacosta, also a coastal town, right, was devastated by the Vanguard, right? The Silveranti extremists. In both of those games, notably, right, the antagonists laying waste to a town and someone's place of home, whereas now it's Velvet and the heroes whom we're following who are absolutely destroying a town for their own instrumental purposes of getting a ship out of there. Things are getting interesting. Oh my god. No, Grail, we covered that already. Velvet is the vengeful teenager. She's the teenager of all time. Thank you, Pink Moon Echo. Oh, well, I tried. I failed, but I tried. Maybe I need a quick step or something. Yeah, we've substituted a vengeful teenager for a really vengeful teenager. That's the difference. It is nice quality of life for a not that great battler such as myself to be able to see the line of fire for all of the spells. Or I guess the Malak arts is what they're called in this game. With the different straight lines and circles. Makes it a little easier to keep track of everything. I clearly need all the help I can get, he says as Velvet promptly dies.
As Exorcist Praetor Teresa, I give you this order. Do it, number 2.
The kid's gonna blow himself up!
I remember this. Yeah, they do seem pretty overpowered, Grail. The spells, I mean.
2 praetors. Not looking good.
Knock them back. That's an order. Knock them back, or I'll eat you.
An order?
Now!
Why? Why would they do such a thing to us? We're finished! Helives is
Wow.
no more!
Curse you. Curse you. Such ghastly demons. The Abbey, no. Lord Artorias himself must be informed.
It is. That is so strikingly reminiscent of not just Isalia, but really the whole first world trip through Silverant in Tales of Symphonia, where you just go to town after town only to see the designs lay waste to the towns, whether that's Iselia or Luen or Palmacosta. I guess really Asgard is the only main place that really gets off scot-free in that first run through the world. But even there's a kind of logic and explanation to why it's happening, where the Desians are punishing the town for disobeying them. Here, it's the same level of brutal violence, destroying someone's home, but with just pure chaos as the explanation. Like, we need a ship and we're gonna cause a total ruckus in order to be able to get away. All of the violence and destruction is totally incidental to the party's goal, which of course already is driving to the heart of the conflict that's been foregrounded in the story, between the praetors and the abbey standing in defense of logic and reason versus Velvet and her ilk, who are more bound to the emotional. It's almost as if to explain their actions, especially in this early game, we don't have the recourse to things like rational inferential reasoning like we would in another game, which is part of what makes it all the more chaotic and uncomfortable, in a very similar spirit to what it was that Velvet experienced on the night of the Advent when she was made into this thing in the first place. Power links. All right, that's something that I do understand and has been in other games. That's what it's all about, Pink Moon Neko. Justice for Lizard Guy.
Well, that turned out better than I expected. Though we wound up with a little extra.
Extra?
Oh, it's cute.
He looks like he'd be a scrumptious midday snack for you.
A snack?
She's just teasing.
No. If that's an order, I accept it.
Should we really be taking this kid along?
His arts will be useful to us, and we can always get rid of him.
Precisely. Malakim are tools. Use them and ditch them. Isn't that right, number 2?
Yes.
That's because the explanation is the reward, Grail, right? You have to suffer through the grind before you understand what the grind was for. I was trying to make a joke, but that came out sounding pithier than I meant it to. Did we just uncover one of the hidden meanings of the true Tales series? And we're off! The vast open sea of Tales of Berseria. It's funny, for any terminally obsessive Xenoblade Chronicles fans like myself, Malak number 2 is reminding me way more than I expected of number 7, later renamed Sagiri in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The similar kind of erasure of self-concept, and also like being programmed to follow orders at the behest of someone else in a place of authority.
Now that was a right old conflagration. Don't think they'll be chasing after us anytime soon. You certainly didn't leave them much of a port, though. I wonder if the town will ever recover.
How much did you take?
Who needs a name when you're just a tool, am I right?
Episode 2, Magilou's Fury, wherein the beautiful witch is captured and tortured by a demon most cruel.
I'm starting to see why they wanted to execute you.
Yeah, she was also the the leader of the colony, though. So I think there are reasons that she would need to be kind of more sanitized of her self-concept than the others, because all the others were subordinate to her and could therefore afford a slightly more robust sense of community and self.
Our destination is Logris. Set a course.
I'll do what I can, but this vessel really needs a bigger crew. We need to hire more men. Besides, if we keep sailing this way...
You seem busy.
We need more hands. We have to set our course and tie down the cargo. I've unfurled the sails. Does that not look safe to you?
Sure. As long as it doesn't come loose.
Does anyone know anything about knot tying? I'm so curious because that was one of those things I never understood growing up as someone who can barely tie his shoes. Just the sheer number of different knots that proper sailors and scouts and other similar types have for different situations. I get that there are different contexts in which you need different kinds of knots, but it ties my mind into knots trying to think about all of those different contexts.
This is so hard to read.
Metaphor!
Actually, you're holding it wrong. It's built to function even if the ship is rolling.
Velvet!
The heading's fine! Kid, what's your name?
Number 2.
Not that. Your real name. Surely you have one. Wanna hold it?
If that's an order.
I'm asking you what you want.
So you're ordering me to answer?
Right. You Malakim would destroy yourselves as long as it was in order, wouldn't you?
That is our purpose.
You really are tools. In that case, keep your mouth shut.
Cannon fire astern!
Any favorite knots, Pink Moon Neko? Or particularly unusual ones that you'd like to share with the group?
They've got a bead on us, folks! And in case you hadn't noticed, we aren't really equipped for sea combat!
To land then! We can fight them there!
Huh. Well, look at that. They really are a bunch of demons. That works in our favor.
I think this cutscene is going to keep going on and put us in another direction. So before we get too far away from it, I just want to call out, speaking about what I was saying at the very start of the stream of Berseria, when I said something to the effect of how this game stood out to me amongst Tales games as being very kind of self-consciously cinematic, in bringing like symbolism and literary content to life through cinematography. Just that one little scene on the ship with the piano music that is quickly becoming like Velvet's leitmotif going on in the background, where Velvet is trying to chart her course with this ship and she can't figure out how to read the compass. And with the help of this Malak, who looks like her brother, she's able to find her way and orient herself. Like, how much can you say about the essence of the story and everything we're going to experience over the next 60 hours in just a single moment? And even without knowing where the story is going to go, like you can read that scene in the way it couches those characters and their relationship, and even just what we've seen in the intro with Velvet and Laphicet before this, as the kind of perfect microcosm of the entire arc of this game. I love a game that is sufficiently thoughtfully put together to have little resonant moments and keystones such as that to uncovering and navigating its themes.
You knowingly pick fights with demons? Must have a death wish. You're in trouble now that we're on land.
Wipe them out, number 2. That's an order.
Whoa there. We're not the one you'll be fighting.
Yeah, there is something very satisfying to undoing complicated knots, Pink Moon Echo. I'm with you there. Whether literal or metaphorical knots. Oh, I'm so excited. I forgot we meet him this early.
It'll be me.
A Malak?
No, I'm the Reaper.
He looks a little like someone we spent a lot of time with recently.
What is this?
Who could he be?
Sword, twin blades.
Don't fear the Reaper. Those boots look kind of familiar. Awesome. Another great theme going on in the background too. Musical theme, that is.
You passed the test. Join us,
Well, aren't you the impudent one?
says the demon who torched television.
Sir, we are the main party. You may join us.
I hope you realize we're doing you a favor. If you'd stayed on that course, you would have smashed right up against the gate of Vortigern.
You guys are headed for Midgand, aren't you? That means you're gonna have to go through the Narrows up ahead. But the kingdom has a massive fortress there built to defend them, with a tremendous gate.
A fortress.
If this is true, we're in your debt.
We desire to pass through as well, but we lack the strength. I propose we form a partnership.
I'd be a fool to blindly trust the words of a pirate.
Do you really want to see the gate for yourself? We won't stop you. We'll even throw you a nice funeral if you like.
That is a tempting offer. I have always wanted a nice funeral.
So what? We're allowed to refuse?
Your business is your business, and ours is ours. There's nothing more to say.
But First Mate, you can't go alone. We'll all come with you.
You'd only get in the way. Stick to the plan and focus on your duties aboard the Von Eltia.
All right. Dire foes. Okay, so you can like pull in field bosses through consecutive battles. That's interesting. Oh, interesting. What do you mean, Grail? In terms of like, in terms of just as like a balance to the, like the Christ imagery, like death and rebirth, or did you have something else in mind? I don't remember Reaper imagery in Zestiria, but maybe you meant something else. Yeah, dire foes like the giant bat, pink moon echo. Good looking out. Do we need items? No, we're pretty poor. I'll call that good for now. We can go shopping when we have more money. Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, maybe we can unpack that a little more for the sake of avoiding spoilers for the rest of the crew once we get a little bit further in the story here.
Your favorite witch is neither a sailor nor a warrior.
Because I want to prod you more about what you mean there. I'm interested.
No argument there.
Is the Gate of Vortigern really something that impressive, Dial?
They've got a fortress and a patrolling fleet, but the gate is the real show. Even a battleship couldn't blast its way through that thing.
Is there no sea route that avoids the Narrows?
There is, so to speak, but it's a long way out into the open sea. We just end up shipwrecked.
They sure do just keep getting worse, Magulu. Oh, this girl, she just gets me.
And what are you folks planning anyway?
Like I said, we're getting through that.
It's almost the time, Grail. We're getting close to the time.
Conversation's over.
Is it possible to get through?
If the first mate says he'll do it, he'll do it.
You sure put a lot of faith in him. He's a Malak, isn't he?
That doesn't matter. He's got the captain's blessing, and that's enough for us.
Couldn't you ignore the Narrows and just sail around?
Not now. We lost both our compass and several of our crew in an earlier attack.
Compass?
Huh.
But in the end, we're pirates. If someone blocks our way, we can't just fall back.
And that's what makes a pirate, huh? The pirates share our goal. I don't think we have any choice but to band together.
True enough. If forward lies destruction and backward lies doom, sideways is your only option!
And yet you don't feel like helping out.
I sure don't.
That Malak isn't all he seems. Who knows what's up his sleeves?
The kid's a Malak too. Hey boy, you sense anything?
We both have ulterior motives. In any case, let's go after him.
Is it still ulterior motives when, like, all of the goals in the game are couched in terms of what you might call ulterior motives? I feel like the only thing that unites anyone in the party in Berseria, so far at least, is that they're convenient to each other's ulterior motives at the moment.
I know you probably won't listen to me, but you shouldn't get involved with Ifrit's pirate.
I guess that's not true. I'm being very disingenuous for the sake of a joke, because Rokuro is very clearly only here, at least according to his word, in order to pay back the debt that he feels he owes to Velvet. So that is not so much an ulterior motive as just a deeply held sense of honor.
Ifrit is the fiercest, most villainous pirate in all the seas. Every sailor trembles at his name.
Yeah, for sure, Graham.
For a demon, you're pretty wimpy.
Demon or not, scary is scary.
So this Ifrit is that tough?
You bet. Rumor has it he's an unrepentant troublemaker and is as strong as an ogre. His gang are all fearless, wild rogues. They've turned the tables on the Royal Navy time and time again. And best of all is their ship, the Von Eltia. She's a legend that's traveled to distant lands across the sea.
Nice. Sounds like I'd get along with them just fine.
You seem to know an awful lot about them yourself.
Well, it's just that every sailor dreams of being as wild and free as Ifrit and his pirate crew.
I guess.
Hey, I can dream, can't I? Demon or human or even lizard, we all got our fantasies.
Saray did teach us that it's important to recognize and follow your dream. There's no one more powerful than Ifrit, the pirate Literally so powerful that he transcends any single Tales game and is ubiquitous across their universes. To the caves! Boy, a lot of caves so far in this world.
Don't get overconfident.
Oh, number 2 has joined us in battle. Love it. We've almost got a full roster now, my friends.
Sorry to cut you down.
You better be ready. Come on, really?
Those theorionized finishers are pretty dang cool. Oh, Pink Moon Echo pointed out we got a new art for Velvet. Might as well throw that somewhere. Megasonic Thrust, baby! Why mess with a classic? I'd actually prefer Supersonic Thrust, but I'll take what I can get. Oh, Megasonic Thrust is your beloved now, Grail? Axebeak would like a word with you. It thought that it was your beloved. That was a swing and a miss.
Victory is ours.
Here I come.
Alright, already I can see I'm going to want to change this. Because Megasonic Thrust, it simply thrust them too far. So I probably want that at the end of that. I think that makes more sense. Fair enough, Grail. Better to love too much than too little, am I right?
Come on, really?
Always ready to fight. Deception. 1-2. is ours.
Rokuro got a new art. Love it. Oh, Grail. We'll miss you, my friend. But I'm glad you were able to hang out for longer than you were expecting. That was a treat for both of us. Well, for me. I won't presume to speak for you. Hopefully it was a treat for you as well.
So, you've chosen to trust a pirate?
Not for a second. But if you're prepared to lend us the use of your ship and crew until we reach the capital, we'll help you.
I'll agree to those terms. But there's something I should tell you first. I bring ill fortune to all those around me. The Reaper's curse. I could flip this coin 1,000 times and still land on tails. Trying to get through the fort cost the lives of 5 good sailors. If you join up with me, I can't guarantee your safety.
Why would you go out of your way to warn us?
It's a good gift to have,
Wants
Pink
me to
Moon
an
Echo.
unfair death, right?
You'll just have to pick up the mantle. No, I'm kidding.
If you still want to come with me, just know the risks.
Works for me. I land on tails, I'll flip it to heads on my own.
Impossible. No one's ever done that.
Your name?
Velvet. This is number 2.
I'm Rokuro. A pleasure.
Tell us who you are. Ah! Oh, my heart.
Plan of attack, I'm sure.
I'm so happy, but still not over having to kill him in the
Oregon
last
is
game.
impregnable. It won't fall to an attack whether by sea or by land.
So, no plan?
Wait, what about both at once?
Exactly. First, we send in the Von Eltia to draw their fleet out of the Narrows. Then we slip inside and open the sea gate ourselves. The Von Eltia will then break away and rush back into the channel. We'll climb aboard and push through.
One slip and we're all as good as dead.
Then don't slip and we're not dead.
Walking with the Reaper, huh?
The plan is already in motion. Let's move. This cave leads to the fortress.
So I know I called this out on the last stream, but again, just notice 7 hours into the game, just about, maybe even a little more. And I think this moment now is really the first time where if you hadn't known Berseria is a prequel to Zestiria, you would now know that they were connected. Because obviously, if you're paying attention and you've played Zestiria like we just did, you know all about Eizen, Edna's brother, the ill-fated Eizen, who ended up becoming a dragon hellion and whom we had to put down as the only kindness available to him in the last game. And now, wonder of wonders, bittersweet miracle of miracles, we get to live through a journey with him in this earlier time. So really interesting cadence for the way that this game unfolds its relation to the other game. Also really cool because like that was something I was able to pick up on just because it's so obvious even when I first played Berseria and I hadn't super recently played Zestiria before, so it wasn't super fresh in my mind. But now that we're diving into Berseria super fresh off of Zestiria, another thing that is a pretty key and interesting point of comparison that I didn't think about before was the way he talks about his Reaper's curse. We have a model for that too. That was Dezel's whole situation in Zestiria. The idea of a seraph who is just fated to beget malevolence and chaos and suffering wherever he goes because that's just his nature and there's nothing that he can intrinsically do to change that and just has to accept who he is in a way that's very similar to the kind of more evolved perspective that we have on it that Eizen is already representing. You have to imagine that, like, if Dezel had been more honest with himself and his nature, instead of repressing those memories of his past and his sense of who he was, maybe he could have come to the sort of peace or self-understanding that, at least from these first few moments with Eizen, who bears what appears to be the identical curse, has in the way he carries himself and is able to chart his course through the world and the seas and everything in between. We press on. Is he in our party now? Yes! No, Pink Moon Neko. It has been recommended to me on the stream a few times while we were working through Zestiria, so it's on my list. Actually, I am eyeing, I think I mentioned this last time, a copy of the collector's edition that I noticed available near me. So if I end up getting that, I think it actually comes with the anime, which would be great. But I'm thinking I'll probably take the time to just to find it online or something one way or another, because people have mentioned they kind of not only add interesting details, but change some things in interesting ways compared with the game, which is always really fun to see in these sorts of stories. Are we not able to...
Don't blame me if this goes sour.
Can we not switch the order of people yet? I was just trying to switch to control Eizen instead of Velvet. Can we not do that yet? You guys help me out. Am I losing my mind? Because changing the leader, that surely just changes who's leading the party like that, right? That doesn't also give us control of Eizen in battle, does it? No. Have we just not unlocked the Moon Selector equivalent yet? Or have I already forgotten that part of the tutorial?
To make you go all out.
Already, I love their banter. I'm here for it. Does it have to be in battle, though? Can we not, like, change the default character on, like, on the menu screen?
I'm up.
There's got to be a way, right? No, that's not it. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Well, I guess we can do it in battle at least. It's not worth taking a break to look through the tutorial screens in the menu. There. So we can do it in battle. I just want to figure out how to do it as a default, because switching characters in battle is not intuitive to me. But, come hell or high water, I will figure out a way to play as Eizen.
You won't get any pity or compassion from me.
Mana boosted punches, love that. And elemental attack centered on wind and earth. Fun to control a caster. I basically never do that in a Tales game. But better late than never. Yeah, he's got like a little Mac range to his punches. I noticed that right away. Similar sorts of arcs through the air.
You're fighting the Reaper.
You dare interrupt the Reaper while he's casting? That's unacceptable.
Victory is ours.
Look at all these vines. They're too tangled to cut through.
I'm carrying some flint. Just burn through it.
Do you really think this is a good place for us to start a fire?
Normally, no. But we're also demons and Malakim. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not exactly normal ourselves.
I love it. Island of Misfit Toys, baby. There we go. Wasn't letting me do it for a second there. Pink Moon Echo usually no. In Zestiria, I got in the habit of waiting just because I remember in Zestiria, they also gave the party member you're using them on like a full heal. I don't remember whether that's also the case in Berseria. I guess we can just try it out. It's probably faster than remembering. Does that heal? Yeah, it looks like it does heal. So I kind of use them as not just stat boosting items, but also just additional healing items on hand in case you need them.
You better be ready.
Yeah, I'll do that, or then of course another one of my common play styles is if I find myself up against a boss or some enemy that's giving me a lot of trouble, then I'll wait to crack the herbs until then, when I really feel like they might make a difference stats-wise. Those are interesting plants. I felt like we were supposed to collect something there or something, but there was nothing to collect. I'm actually trying to use other arts besides Swallow Dance. I'm quickly losing track of the order in which I set the different arts to the different buttons for Velvet.
I wish I had power like that.
I'd forget about it if I were you.
That's the glue that brings the party together. They all have their own special sorts of curses. Whether that's being the victim of a blood moon ritual by the leader of the exorcists, or just having famously bad luck.
in my way. I'll end this quickly.
See this? Let's go! How's that? I'm good. See this? Let's go! I'm good. Almost! Clean light! Okay, let's go! How's that? See this? Almost! Let's go! How's that? The Reaper's power. Let's go! How's that? No escape!
Yeah, I probably should. Thank you, Pink Moon Echo. I was meaning to check on that.
That wasn't worth the effort.
Let's do that now. Eizen does not have that many options yet. Alright. I think that memory locket was passed on to Edna, if I'm remembering the nuances of Zestiria's story correctly. Because this game doesn't have enough ways to break my heart. No. There we go. A little bit of re-kitting. I still don't understand why it's so much harder for me on this interface to reslot them. That's like one of the most obvious and basic things in a Tales game. Love to see it.
The kid's awfully quiet. You think maybe there's something wrong with him?
Number 2's always that way.
Stop that. Calling him by a number is cruel.
What's Roku?
Number 2? No, I didn't forget about
Well,
number 2,
son
Pink Moon
number
Echo.
6, technically.
Same thing then.
What do you mean?
Not even remotely.
Just in terms of respecking equipment?
You alright, kid?
Yeah, good call. I'll take a look after this.
Something. If Eizen hadn't noticed in time, you'd be dead.
Because you ordered me to keep my mouth shut.
That's not what I meant. Why? Why would you do
I
that?
take things really literally.
Whoa, take it easy, Velvet.
Let me guess, kid. You were bound by an exorcist? I thought as much. The boy's will has been sealed away. Malakim have individual personalities, just like humans. But exorcists have developed methods to seal those personalities away, so they can use Malakim as uncomplaining tools.
Will he always be like this?
Can't say. I've never seen one escape the exorcist before.
interesting to frame that idea of sealing personalities away as the end point or the natural conclusion of what it would be to kind of restrain and prohibit all emotional content in favor of just the logic and utility of functioning as a tool for a certain end.
Listen, kid.
Which, of course, is
If you're ever
pretty in
trouble,
line with
speak up, okay?
how we've been led to understand Artorias so far.
You said exorcists bind Malakim's free will.
Yeah. We've lived in this land a long time, and we're our own folk, just like humans. Only a small portion of humans.
I'm getting slightly better at noticing them, Pink Moon Echo. Thanks to you, in no small part.
But the Advent changed that.
Now Malakim can be seen by ordinary people. We're being robbed of our free will and made into obedient tools. Humans praise Artorias for providing a miraculous new weapon against demons, but Malakim aren't mere objects.
Malakim aren't things?
They are. As far as Artorias is concerned, Malakim, demons, and humans are all nothing more than tools. Everything in service to his utopia of reason. That's all anyone is to him. Even my brother.
Without spoilers, this also has some interesting echoes that I hadn't put together before this of Final Fantasy XVI and a lot of the themes and content that it thinks about. Oh, we were going to respec Malak number 2. Interesting also. What was I going to say? It fell out of my head. Oh, how in the time frame in the future relative to this in Tales of Zestiria that we saw, Seraphim aren't really visible to humans because of the Age of Chaos. So interesting now to be on the other side of it, where we still don't really understand the implications of what it was that Artorias did in the Advent, or why he really did it, except that putatively it was a way of quelling demons and dealing with demon blight. But now we know that one of the effects of it was actually to make the seraphic equivalent in this world, namely the Malakim, visible to humans. So we are actually going to get to see the world that Mikleo and Sarai contemplated of humans being able to walk alongside Seraphim and see and interact with them. That'll be good to boost the spell casting. Sure. Fabulous.
Looks like you want to die. Let's go! Upset! Let's go! Upset! Pummel! Pummel! Let's go! Upset! Let's go! Upset! Let's go! Upset! North! Hold up! Pummel! Let's go! Upset! Pummel!
You won't get any pity or compassion from me.
I spot a side content marker.
Looks like you want to die. Upset! You're wide open! This is the Reaper's house. Upset! You're wide open! Who wants them next? Oh, double! Windlash! Double! Windlash! Dead yet.
Unarmed? Hardly. These are deadly weapons.
What'll it take to make you go all out?
I would definitely agree with that so far, Big Moon Echo. I think just the fact that her attacks are all physical as opposed to the balance between physical and casting definitely makes it easier to string them together and get a bit of a flow going. And then it's hard to find a substitute for her therionizing power of that sweet claw and absorbing enemy abilities. I do kind of like the challenge, though, of playing a character type that I typically don't and trying to figure out how their moveset works, because it does really feel like, Grail was saying this, I think maybe on Monday, Berseria especially has like very different play styles and battle flows for different characters, and especially since we have the option of playing as Eizen after all of the emotional attachment we got to him through Edna and Zestiria. Pretty good opportunity to try to branch out and try something new.
Come on, really?
Just a few hours into the game, and Velvet has already become a consummate collector. I don't know if that says more about her or us. Maybe a little bit of both.
Titles! Titles!
Finally.
Are you a turtle demon or something?
No, you got it all wrong. I'm the White Turtles. Sorry about spooking you, Zol.
If you're not a demon, then perhaps you're a Malak.
Nope, I'm just a plain old Turtles. Nothing more and nothing less. I'm sure you guys have lots of questions about me, but for now, I'd appreciate it if you could hold off on them.
Right. Sure, if you insist.
Much obliged.
The turtles are traveling merchants of considerable savvy. Their services could be quite useful for members of the underworld like us.
The amount of gravity Eisen is giving to his explanation of the Toidles. It's perfect.
You don't say. Sounds handy.
You betcha. And at old White Turtle shop, we believe the customer's smile is what matters most. That being said, this being where it is, my prices unfortunately might be a little on the high.
Oh no, you're going to give us a bargain.
I'd love to do that, Cease. But when you do's business out in remote areas like this, the costs add up and, well...
You're just taking advantage of the situation.
I can't entirely deny that, but...
Then that settles it. You'll do business with us at market prices, and that's final.
We should seal the deal with a smile, too, since it matters so much to him. Like this.
Much obliged.
That's the secret for good business. Pay the merchant's premium with smiles instead of additional gold. Oh, that might be a good get for Rokuro. We still don't have that much gold. I don't want to go too crazy yet. Oh, that's right. I forgot we went through that whole introduction of how to enhance things. Yeah, this is what we want to do. Slowly learning how to play the game. But already taking advantage of the systems to a greater extent than I did in Zestiria, I will freely admit. Alright. I feel like that was progress. Small steps. Next time we can think about things like dismantling and all of those material management considerations.
You sure know how to drive a hard bargain, Velvet.
What else was I supposed to do? Would you rather I devoured him and swiped all his stuff?
You're more frightening than the Reaper.
Still, that Turtles was an interesting guy.
It's a big world, kid. A lot of strange folks out there.
So I'm discovering.
He probably took one look at us and thought the very same thing.
A demon, a Malak, and a Reaper. We got it all.
Ain't that the truth?
Except for just a regular old human. They don't seem to have found one of those yet. Give it time. I feel like there was another side path, and that seems to be the way forward.
Anyway?
So I want to just
Some sort of
see if there's anything
turtle men.
on the side
Yeah,
path first.
What are they?
They are what they are. All you need to know is that they're good at peddling things.
They're probably just called turtles because they wear all those sea turtle shells on their backs. After all, Rokuro means sixth son, and that's what I am.
I was Teresa's second.
Oh yeah, I meant in the party right now, Pink Moon
So I
Echo.
was number 2.
That's a title, not a name.
Huh?
Would someone just give the kid a name already?
A name?
But you're right, counting Magulu, they really do have it all already. At least as far as we know about the world. I guess technically they don't have an exorcist yet, but without spoilers, give it time. Things change. Right, so that was the left-hand path. And God damn it, PlayStation. I don't think we cleared out the right-hand path yet.
Don't get overconfident. Too slow.
We're finished here. Let's go.
Ooh, Debilitator. That's a cool title. I don't know that any of the previous Tales games that I can recall off the top of my head refer to Grave as an assessment of the amount of style you have in battle. I suppose that makes sense, but that's an interesting term to use in describing what the goal is. Usually in my head when I think about grade assignment in a Tales game, it's more about technical proficiency or really just outclassing your enemies, which I guess could be described as style, but that when I hear style, it makes me think more of the costumes in Tales as opposed to battle performance.
Another victory.
All right, now we press on. Certain parts of this cave network, like here where you have all the little plants reaching up, reminds me somewhat of the inside of the Bionis in Xenoblade Chronicles. Because I guess every JRPG for me is just a game of how many steps does it take to get from this game to Xenoblade Chronicles. This is maybe an obvious point about these first few dungeon navigations too, but it's interesting to me with the way this game is set up with anti-heroes and outcasts of kind of questionable moral character, that the first few journeys that we're taking with them are kind of an underground nature, where you're kind of covertly going around society and, you know, trying to avoid detection by going through caves or finding other demons who have holed themselves away in caves. It gives it a whole kind of, I guess, subversive element. That might not be the right word, but just a sense that you're operating in the shadows in a way that's really consistent with the fiber of these characters. Too many paths. I don't think we went this way yet. Yeah, this is the other side of the room we just wound back around to. Ah, war point. Excellent.
You'll be rust on my blade.
Your style is really unique.
Just wait until I pull out the good stuff.
Weakness hunter. I like that. Yeah, I think the vine path is the way forward, Pink Moon Echo, so I was just trying to clear out the other areas before that. Which it looks like we have.
I'll end this quickly.
Keep forgetting I can actually move the camera in these battles to be able to see things the way I want to.
Another victory.
You'll be rust on my blade.
Victory is ours.
Alright, I got some mastery skills. I like that. I don't know how deep this observation goes, but something interesting to me too about reading Berseria as a follow-up of Zestiria is if you think about the field skills in them. In Zestiria, the field skills were all about tapping into the essence of your party members, right? You have these seraphim traveling with you who have the ability to manipulate elements, and Saray is able to channel those elements in order to make meaningful differences in the field. Whereas in Berseria, it's much less to do with the essence of these characters and more about the instrumentalism of whatever tools they happen to have on hand. Like Eizen saying, oh yeah, I'm carrying around this flint. Why don't we use it to set fire? Or Velvet realizing, oh, I'll bet I can jump across those rocks. So it's much more about them, I guess, thinking through the various possibilities of what they can do with what they already have on hand, or foot, as the case may be, I guess, rather than some sort of special magical connection with the land or the essence of the world or anything like you would get in Zestiria. I guess as I say it that way, like Berseria already has a pretty overt focus on tools, whether that's, you know, a literal tool like a piece of flint or like a symbolic tool, like the way that the exorcists are using Malakim as tools rather than as individuals. So that transition in the field skills kind of mirrors that idea of instrumentalism in the plot more broadly.
I'll finish this quick.
They were nothing.
Daylight!
Looks like Ifrid's first mate has a strange superstition.
It's just a habit. Only comes up tails anyway.
What land did that coin come from? I've never seen a coin with a goddess on one side and the Reaper on the other.
Strictly speaking, that's not the Reaper on the back. It's an image of the Demon King, Daus.
Ooh, that's a deep cut. Tales of Fantasia.
And Daus.
And Tales of Symphonia.
The Book of Ragnarok, Chapter 765. The Battle of Yggdrasil.
Whoa, you're awfully well read. The coin was dug up from some ancient ruins in another land. They called the place Carlin long ago.
I totally forgot about this connection. This is awesome.
Gold, but they had some process to harden the metal and make it resistant to scratches.
Wow, that's a rather rare find then.
Do you like to read books?
Teresa's chamber was full of them, so I spent a lot of time reading. Ragnarok is a record of battles from the Age of Myth. I've read it several times now.
Anyway, coins like that are hard to come by. Where did you get it?
It's a long story.
Never mind then.
So, were you deciding something with that coin toss?
Not anything I can talk about yet.
Oh, I'm sorry for prying.
That's a really interesting and cool connection too, because you might recall near the end of the Zestiria stream, when we took the time to do its EX dungeon, that dungeon, the Hexenile and the Calyx, which is attached to it, is not just a place for cameo appearances where you get to meet Jade from Tales of the Abyss and Sophie from Tales of Graces, but also there's a whole conversation sort of grounding the context of those ruins between Saray and Mikleo, where they talk about, oh, it seems like these are ruins from the Age of the Gods. And there's this idea in the ether through like all of the conversations and discussions that they have around that EX dungeon that maybe the Age of the Gods or the Era of the Gods, whatever it is that they call it, is some kind of like relic of the past, according to which like the people and beings in this world and the spirits that define it were able to intersect and draw from like other nearby universes, such as the worlds of other Tales games that aren't directly connected but can kind of bleed together in these liminal spaces. And so when when Malak number 2 was just talking about the Age of Myth, that strikes me as super similar, where if they're giving not even an optional story content, but in the direct main line of the story here now in Berseria, these connections between this world and the far off world that is clearly the world that we get to experience directly in Tales of Symphonia and Dawn of the New World and Tales of Fantasia, that whole universe. It's kind of, it doesn't have to just be read as fan service or a nice little Easter egg. We actually have the basis in Zestiria to think about, well, what if there's something special about this world, the world that we see in Zestiria and Berseria, that has an actual explanation of why it might be a nexus that allows other nearby worlds, such as those that we see in the other Tales games, to bleed into it under certain circumstances. That would be really interesting to explore more, depending on what other content there might be about it. Rokuro is definitely a good guy, Pink Moon Neko. I definitely get the sense that, like many Tales characters. He's a good guy with a big secret, as big as that sword he won't use in battle. But I'm sure we'll get to that. Boy, the lighting and the music in combination very quickly changed the tone of our whole adventure when we got to this plateau area.
I wish I had power like that.
I'd forget about it if I were you.
That was a cool skit too, because I had totally forgotten that they actually talk about that at all. But then also, back in the day when I first played Tales of Fantasia, I always referred to in my head the character that they're talking about. I won't go into him too much because I don't want to spoil it. It's not one we played on stream. But I always referred to him as Deos because I guess in my head it was like chaos but with a D instead of a C. So to hear him voiced as Douse instead is like one of those moments when, well, there'd be no clear explanation of how to pronounce that beforehand because that's a game that wasn't voiced. And now actually the series can make a decision about how you would actually voice that name. That's pretty cool.
Do we just go in?
Wait. This isn't what I expected.
There's a barrier over it?
They changed the security.
You weren't kidding, were you? That scorpion and this barrier, all part of your curse.
You'll be lucky if that's the worst of it.
A direct assault would be a bad idea. What's the plan?
Down the cliff, there should be an entrance used during the fortress's construction. We'll check that.
You did your research.
I had to, didn't I?
We're finished here. Let's go.
I wonder how far we can go in this direction. Oh, that's the main gate, so we're not going to be able to get through there anyways. Yeah. All right. Onward to the side path, then. Yeah, very cool pink moon neko. I was talking with someone about this the other day. Maybe it was Dan. One of the things that's been really cool to me about doing this Tales of Praxis series and exploring all of the games in this context that we're doing is that I've kind of gained a new appreciation for how they've thought about the relationship between the games and doing things like cameo appearances over time, and you can kind of watch that evolve as you play the different games because basically as soon as they had more than one game, they started doing that. Like even Archie and Cress from Tales of Fantasia appear as kind of little mini Easter egg guest stars in Tales of Destiny to help out Stan and teach him arts in exchange for trivia questions. But then as you watch the games evolve over the years, you can see how they like take the spirit of that and figure out just more ways to weave that into the story in interesting and cool ways, like we saw with Tales of Zestiria's EX dungeon, like we're seeing now with these meaningful and interesting call-outs to other games like Symphonia and Fantasia, and really culminated, I think, and don't have to talk about this too much because we haven't streamed this yet, but in the EX dungeon of Tales of Arise and the way they bring in other characters there, I feel like that's just such a cool masterclass in how deeply you can connect, like, what would in another game be simple cameos or guest appearances with a whole other, like, optional plot line that really adds to the substance of, like, the main story and what that game is trying to say in very cool and interesting ways. And Eifried, that's right. Talk about a character who is just kind of a funny little pirate throwaway early on and has since become like a very meaningful mainstay of so many of the games, from Berseria to Vesperia and pretty much everything in between.
Is that the way in?
This one's actually guarded.
Which means there's no barrier. Let's move, everyone.
Stop! Those guards are...
Careful, they're not what they seem.
Oh! Demons!
They transformed into demons!
What kind of curse is this, Eizen?
I warned you, didn't I?
It's literally the same curse as Dezel's. Just the same way our poor boy would create hellions around him without meaning to.
You wouldn't expect these guards to carry the demon blight. Is this your curse again?
Probably.
If I'd charged in, that might have turned ugly. Thank you for stopping me.
Don't thank me. He's the one who noticed the danger.
In that case, I'll be counting on you to keep watch. After all, we've got a Reaper with us. Who knows what else we'll find?
She's saying it's all right to talk.
Oh, good guy, Rokuro.
Understood. Keeping watch.
He's finding his personality, bit by bit. I love it. A lot of unexpectedly small and heartwarming moments like that pretty early on in this game. I think I'm more inclined to notice them because they contrast so sharply with the general tone of, you know, darkness and kind of a sullen and edgy party, but there's a lot of wholesomeness too if only you pay attention and look for it. In we go. Oh.
Looks like there are demons inside as well. Don't tell me, Eizen. You're the source of
Yeah, you feel that too, Pink Moon Echo?
Nope. It's just our bad.
It's nice. It adds a nice texture to the game, I think.
This is what it means to walk with the Reaper. You've only yourselves to blame.
It works in our favor. The enemy won't be capable of an organized response.
And we're a small group. Our mobility will be an advantage in the chaos.
So, Eizen, how do we open the sea gate?
The controls ought to be located in the upper part of the gate. We'll activate them and then send a signal.
Got it. To the top of the gate, then.
This is interesting to keep track of too, because remember we've already talked like earlier in the stream when they were fleeing on the boat of just the degree to which this party is taking advantage of chaos, but now as we're into another area and they're talking about how they can really directly like take advantage of chaos because the enemy won't be able to organize a response. That's like really interesting to keep in mind in terms of the connections with Tales of Zestiria, because remember the whole premise of why another shepherd needed to show up and basically redeem humanity and Soray's mission was to put an end to the age of chaos that was started by Heldolf and Michael and everything that happened with the Last Shepherd and Mautellus. So really interesting now to see that our party in Berseria has entered into a world where order has basically been established with an iron fist by the Abbey, and their way of implementing, subterfuge and something against the status quo in order to achieve their own ends is by creating chaos where there is no chaos. So almost the direct inversion of what we were dealing with in Zestiria before this.
Here I come.
What an enemy design. Yeah, that's a fiend if ever I've seen one. Oh yeah, that's a fiend, alright.
I'll cut down anyone in my way.
You'll be rust on my blade.
Oh no, I forgot that they can do that big moon echo. God, what weird critters those things are.
Worth the effort.
The noise. Wah, wah, wah. Give me nightmares.
Unarmed? Hardly. These are deadly weapons.
They're definitely like unusual designs that make me very uncomfortable, which impresses me for the, I don't even know what number Tales game this is in the series, but after so many games and so many permutations of different enemy types, the fact that they can still come up with new and unusual and memorable enemy designs like that, I think is really impressive.
Hey, not all the ships left.
A battleship. Not good.
A fortress with a sea gate that blocks the entire strait. It's crazy what the Abbey can build.
Until recently, I might not have believed it possible.
It's no sweat if you're using Malakim as tools.
If Malakim can be made a blade to fell demons, they can also be made a hammer to forge metal.
It's another way the Abbey and the Kingdom show their dominance to the people. It says, do not resist, submit.
It's disgusting is what it is.
Disgusting.
Agreed.
Yeah, so already we're starting to see like the theme of logic versus reason teased out in interesting ways, almost in like the socio-political dimension of the game, where it's one thing to think like abstractly about the philosophical content of, what is emotion and how is that different from reason, and what does it mean for people to act logically versus emotionally. Those are all interesting questions, and this game gives you lots of food for thought on all of those. But then there's, like, I think an importantly different question that is just as prominent in the game of kind of what does the rhetoric of reason allow rulers to get away with? Because the Abbey is preaching order, and one thing that you see in, totalitarian and authoritarian regimes, whether those are the regimes in video games or real regimes, is a lot of them impose a strict sense of order on the world, because with that order, there are clear, unambiguous definitions of the role each person in the world has to serve and kind of where they are fit to be and where they are not fit to be. And so that idea of what in the abstract might be called logic or order or structure even, as opposed to chaos, becomes a tool or an instrument, as the party is talking about, for actually exerting control over everyone in your kingdom or your town or whatever, for the principle of using them to achieve your own ends. So it becomes less about reason as such and more as reason as an excuse for allowing you to rule with an iron fist, as the Abbey seems to be doing. Oh! What a punch.
This door should lead to the gate, but it looks like they've got it locked up tight.
Well, brute force is out.
But you had to try, didn't you, Velvet?
How dare you set foot in our domain?
Where's the key?
I am a proud knight of Midgand. I'm not about to yield to the likes of petty demons.
There's nothing I hate more than someone else trying to control the direction of my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
My wheel is mine to hold.
Speaking of the connection between logic
If
and
I'm not
control.
the one steering the ship, then I'm not truly alive.
The one steering.
Indeed, and my entire life is devoted to the defense of this fortress.
Then you better be ready to accept all that happens to you in the line of duty. Maybe it's time we found out just how deep your devotion truly goes. Take it easy. There's 9 more fingers to go.
Oh my god.
Wait! The key is in the control room.
He's the Jack Bauer of Tales characters.
One more question. Which way to the battleship?
Straight ahead, up the stairs.
Got it.
Good night.
Well, thank you for handling that.
It just comes naturally. We need that key, but we also need to take out the battleship before it sails against the Von Eltia.
He's right. The control room or the docks? Which will it be?
Let's start searching.
Okay.
So many doors.
You know, you're pretty good with your fists, Eizen.
Not as good as you are with your swords.
I feel like I've seen a lot of your crew with swords. Do you really never use them yourself?
No, not with the Reaper's curse, I don't. It likes to rear its head at the worst times. I've broken blades just by unsheathing them, and once, just as I was about to deliver a finishing blow, my blade separated from the hilt and went flying. That sort of thing. A sword isn't something I can rely upon when my life is at stake. I fight using only my own body. That's one less thing that can go wrong.
It's too bad you're not a swordsman. I bet we could have had a hell of a fight.
I wouldn't need a sword to make it interesting. What do you say? Want to try your sword against my curse?
Sure, if the right time comes. Just don't whine when I end up winning.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I love how quickly they've developed such banter in their relationship. Strange
Well,
bedfellows,
here's where
I
the real
guess.
show starts. Do we have a plan first, mate?
The fortress guards are almost all ordinary soldiers. Just a handful of exorcists to deal with.
They went to the trouble to build this huge gate. You'd think they'd keep it better defended.
You don't need an army of exorcists to keep a bunch of disorganized pirates under control, do you?
As long as they're fighting ordinary humans, the Royal Army would suffice.
So a few exorcists as officers is all they need.
It was built as a symbol of the Empire, but it seems Artorias is the one really giving the orders. The Abbey directs security and defense, and Imperial soldiers are under Exorcist command.
We aim for the Exorcists then. The harder they are, the more fun it'll be.
Ready to bust some heads?
I'd rather cut them, actually.
I think the ladder down was the way we came in, if I remember correctly. So I'll check out some of these other ways. Oh no, this was the way we came in, I think. Yep. Already getting myself turned around. I think, or was it this way? Son of a gun! They shouldn't have given me so many points of navigation right after that long cutscene. Clearly turned me around 8 ways to Sunday. There we go.
I'll end this quickly.
If you want to live, get out of my way.
It's interesting too, as we're talking about like the rhetoric of reason as a means of control. I think the name of Artorias' brood, the Exorcists, is really telling in that same light. Because if you think about, again, Tales of Zestiria as a contrast class, think about the difference between a shepherd and an exorcist for the moment, all right? Because both, putatively have like religious or Christian connotations. They're both putatively doing something that's good. But a shepherd is, if you think about what the essence of a shepherd is, its focus is on just guiding people in the direction that will be good for them. An exorcist is a much more willful corrective, where implicit in the idea of an exorcist is there's some kind of evil presence or demon that needs to be exorcised. So the name itself is saying there's something wrong with like at least some portion of humanity, such that they're being possessed by something that is not intrinsic to who they are, and only the exorcists can banish that improper nature from them. So it's much more of the kind of corrective you would expect from a body that is principally concerned with control and manipulation of others, rather than something like a shepherd who is interested in guiding people for their well-being, but not with the same kind of corrective or like there was another word I was searching for. I'll find it. Didactic, without the same didactic intonations.
On to battle.
Casting is illegal. We don't do that in this house.
We're finished here. Let's go.
It took me this many streams before I realized that the dots in the enemy indicators were pointing out how many souls they have. We're learning, just slowly.
Looks like you want to die.
We're finished here. Let's go.
That herb. I want that herb.
On to battle.
I wish I had power like that.
Don't waste my time.
Oh, awesome! I was wondering when that was going to happen. That was suspenseful, the way they made us wait a minute in the arena before it showed up. Oh, I don't know if we can kill those projections. I think we might need to focus on the Hanged Man. Oh, maybe that's what the introduction of dire enemies was trying to say, actually, that they're accompanied by invincible enemies. I didn't quite understand that in the tutorial. If that makes sense. Based on what we're experiencing now. Boy, it's a creepy looking thing. Awesome! Oh, I guess I never did that on my first playthrough. You'll always have a friend nearby. It's a very unnerving thing to say after that particular fight. Awesome. Oh, and other dire foes get stronger as you take down dire foes. This is a cool way of doing like field boss enemies or unique optional bosses. Oh, and they also make it balanced so that you can escape if you want to without too much effort. That's nice. So with that Hanged Man, I had to try to remind myself, man, what is the context for all of these monstrous enemies we're encountering here? But I guess based on the explanation we've gotten, it's all really just presumably like the guards and other people who are stationed here who have just been made monstrous and turned into demons because of Eizen's Reaper's curse. That's some curse.
This seems to be the place. Let's split up and look for the key.
We'll search the other room.
A compass!
Aha! Found it.
Ow!
Don't get so worked up over a little thing like that. It's proof you're alive.
No.
The bump is?
No, I'm talking about the pain.
But I'm scared of pain.
Well, kid, who isn't?
Even you?
Anyway, boys sure are fascinated by the weirdest things.
Fascinated?
You like this, right?
I don't really know. But after I saw one in a book, I got a little curious about it, and I felt...
You felt excited, didn't you?
Yeah. I guess so. Do you know why the needle points north? Who figured out how to make it work? I thought that if I had one of these, maybe I could go on adventures. It's exciting.
When you feel that way, you should talk about it. About what you like and dislike, if you're happy or scared. After all, you're alive.
I'm alive.
That's just my opinion, though. Not an order. Got that?
Understood.
You found it? Now we can get that gate open.
We needed a compass too. Nice work.
Thank you.
Now to take care of that ship.
Right. To the docks.
That was a really touching scene, and it was interesting too because I found myself saying, man, Velvet is being so mature and such a quality mentor to Malak number 2. Why can't she extend that same kindness and encouragement and advice to herself? And then I had this follow-up thought, which is kind of sad, but resonates with how we've been led to see Velvet at this point in the story, where, you know, she was giving Malak number 2 the advice that, oh, you should embrace the spirit of adventure and the pain and everything else because you're alive, and that's what it means, and you have to be able to honor that. That's how you get to live a life. And I think the corollary of that is that Velvet almost sees herself as dead, where she died along with Laphicet in the events of the Advent 3 years ago. So I think there's a sense in which the particular sort of lack of self-regard that she has is the result of seeing herself as kind of maybe not quite a ghost, but this kind of shell of a person who is only animated by the animus to get revenge on Artorias, which ties back to that kind of obsessive goal-defining quality that we kicked off the stream talking about in terms of the symbology of her arm and how that relates to our quest with Velvet and her overall course as a character in the story so far.
What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?
My compass fell on my head
Yeah.
and gave me a bump.
Pink Neko, that's a really great way to put it as well. Pink Moon Neko, excuse me. The difference between living and surviving. And yeah, it's like Surviving, or even, I feel like there's some other term in the vicinity, because, like, it's not enough for Velvet to just survive. It's like, it's a persistence, right? Like the kind of thing that, like a plague or a virus has almost, you know? Like viruses too, they're weird, creepy organisms because they're kind of alive, but they're also just kind of these simple self-replicating things that like persist and propagate just because of this single directive to make more of themselves. And they take control of the machinery of whatever, you know, host organism they find themselves in order to just spur on like further replication. So actually, almost as we think about it in that way, like it wouldn't have been the first thing that I came to, but there's almost a sense in which Velvet is a virus, right? Because she has this single goal of revenge, and as she's going on this quest, she's just like co-opting and taking advantage of everything she can around her in order to repurpose that machinery to further her one goal of revenge. I think that's part of what makes it feel like hollow survivalism, as you say, rather than living a life and empowering others to do the same on their own terms. Oh, yes, and far and away different than thriving, 100%.
Let me take a look. Oh, wow, yeah, that's a big one. Bet that must hurt.
Yeah, but at least I'm still alive.
Are you saying that pain is proof that you're really alive?
That's what Velvet told me.
Well, don't worry. I'll just push your bump back down. You'll be good as new.
Wait, what?
I'm just messing with you. Don't sweat it.
Stop fooling around, you two. We have to hurry. Once we get back to the ship, just borrow some sugar and rub it on your bump. It'll make the swelling go down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Pink Moon Neko.
Okay.
I think thriving is definitely a happy thing, and it's also, it's sort of like the other side of the equation of a good virus, kind of. Like it comes when you're intrinsically fulfilled and are happy and understand yourself in a way that Velvet is not able to right now because she's so clouded by revenge. And when you have that kind of capacity to thrive on your own, then you want to propagate that among others by allowing them to thrive and find their own dreams and mission and sense of fulfillment, which is a lot of not what Velvet is doing so far, but what we saw, you know, protagonists like Saray do, and even Lloyd before him in Tales of Symphonia. So a much more common thing for a protagonist, I think, than the colors we're seeing in Velvet so far. No pun intended.
You're awfully fond of that, aren't you? Still, you should keep it in your bag for now.
I'll put it in my bag.
Good. You know, that's a nice bag. It looks made to last.
It's Moritz silk.
I've never heard of Moritz silk.
It's a fine fabric woven from the threads of the Dandarantula spider. It's got a delicate sheen, it's soft as a baby's skin, it's light and stretchable, it breathes, and it's quite durable. But that's not all. Its most fantastic quality is how it absorbs impact.
My, but you're quite a scholar.
Knowledge and experience help you sniff out the best treasure. If you go and stuff every single scrap of plunder you find into your ship, she'll keel over.
That does make sense.
What I'm getting at is, your bag is the best place for you to keep that compass stored.
Keep that thing safe. We need it. All right?
All right.
Okay. Out we go. Eizen is reminding me a little bit in that last sequence of Patty, the similarly treasure-obsessed pirate from Tales of Vesperia. Very different characters in some ways, yet strikingly similar in others.
Don't waste my time. Come on, really? Here I come!
Yeah, he does give off a bit of the same energy as Saray with ruins and kind of world history. Doesn't he, Pink Moon Echo? That's a great connection. It's kind of sadder to me so far, though, because at least Saray had Nicleo so that they could nerd out about the same things together, whereas Eizen seems to be more isolated in his nerdy love of things. I hope he finds someone with whom to nerd out by the end of this. He deserves to be happy before he becomes a Hellion. Alright, we cleared that out. Tag up on this save circle, and then over to the other side of this hall, I believe. Let's say let's go through the door first.
You'll be rust on my blade.
Is that all you got? Come on, really?
Move it or die.
We're finished here. Let's go.
Nice. Oh, wonder what happened down below. Oh, the other way out of the room we were in before was a ladder down, so my guess is we unintentionally did these rooms in just the right order. It's my hope, at least. And down we go. Hey! That rock looks familiar. I think that was the right rock, wasn't it? Although, if that was the rock, it doesn't appear to have really done anything for us. Well, anyway.
Move it or die. That wasn't worth the effort.
Don't get overconfident.
Your style is really unique.
How do you plan to stop the battleship?
It's equipped with large cannons. The plan is to use their gunpowder against them.
You won't get any pity or compassion from me.
Victory is ours. Don't get overconfident.
You won't get any pity or compassion from me.
Oh, I see an exorcist? Orderly?
An exorcist praetor?
Oh,
Docks are up ahead.
it's close.
Like it or not, we're coming through.
Hey, wait. Are you intruders? I suppose it doesn't matter. I will cut down any who consort with demons. Face the fury of the Rangetsu sword style.
Stand aside, Eizen.
No, you stay back. I'll take care of this one.
Sorry. This prey is mine.
No escape!
Get in my way and I'll kill you too. You
Okaru has a score to settle. That exorcist's ritual blade is also notably similar to the ritual blade that Saray wielded.
We're running out of time. You folks handle the ship.
Careful, Rokuro. He's...
I know. He's holding back.
Let's go.
Where did you learn the Rangetsu style?
I studied directly under the Legate Shigure of the Abbey.
Lies. He'd never take on a student. Let me guess. He taught you a few things one time when he was super bored, and then crushed you with them.
Well, I'm excited to get more detail into Rokuro's backstory. So I truly don't remember it.
Is it done, Eizen?
We're set. It also serves as a good signal for the Von Eltia.
Well, that was about the saddest practice I've ever had. But at least I learned where he is. Yo, the Abbey's my goal now too. Now I can do what I have to do and repay my debt at the same time.
Someone's on the hunt for this Shigure fellow.
Is that your doing?
What? Is there a problem?
No.
A fine companion for the Reaper.
Begrudging respect.
Everything's ready. Let's get our gate on.
Between your sword style and that giant blade you shoulder, I wonder if you've got Rangetsu blood in you.
I do. What of it?
Have you heard the name Kushiyamada? I hear they're smiths with some connection to House Rangetsu.
Yeah, they're a distant relation, a clan of kitchen knife makers. Why, are you interested in cooking?
No, I just heard they were fine blades. Thought one would make a good gift.
Don't. Kushiyamada knives are cursed.
Hmm?
The blades themselves are excellent, but they give whoever holds one the urge to strike out at anyone and everyone. I've heard they use the blood of women they love in making their blades.
Ooh.
The truth is a mystery. The clan died out after they all turned on each other. The blades were all supposed to be melted down into slag.
I suppose that's why talk of them is hard to come by these days.
Such is the fate of House Rangetsu. Or maybe it's just in our blood.
Sounds like there's even more to your clan than the rumors say.
Better than there being less, I suppose.
Here I come.
I wish I had power like that.
I'd forget about it.
I think I forgot to take this little route on the way to the battleship. There we go. Nice. Okay, on we go.
All right, it's open.
What was that?
It's the Von Eltia telling us they're approaching. Hurry!
All right. We'll pop the gate open for her. Quickly.
All right. Quickly.
I can't even call that a fight. Oh,
always ready to fight. Let's go!
They were nothing.
On to battle. For one. Let's go. You're wide open. What's next? Let's go.
Boy, what Grail was saying the other day seems to really be accurate. If you take advantage of Therianizing in battle, you really don't end up needing to use that many gels at all. Like, I'm really surprised with how infrequently we're using any sorts of healing items relative to my typical playthrough of a Tales game. I guess you had a similar gameplay outcome with a very different narrative and gameplay system in Zestiria, because there were similar sort of health manipulation dynamics through armatization in Tales of Zestiria. So there also, I mean, we ended up, especially by the end game, using a lot of gels. I guess it was more so with life bottles, because armatizing was a way of pulling people back from death if they could armatize with Seraphim. But same kind of in terms of having gameplay systems that kind of replace items along a certain dimension.
So, this opens the gate.
One side, yes. The gate has 2 giant doors side by side, with matching levers to open each.
Makes sense.
All right, let's find the other device.
Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer.
I'll finish this quick.
Your style is really...
On to battle.
You won't get any pity or compassion from me.
You're fighting the Reaper.
Victory is ours.
This is an interesting way in which the gameplay is mirroring the story too. I hadn't noticed this, but I like I hadn't processed it, but I think my brain or my subconscious had noticed it, because as I was going through those battles, there was just something that felt off about it to me, and it's because only 75% of the party is actually talking, true to Malak number 2 being still sort of bound by the exorcist's yoke and not having access to his own personality. Even though he's casting spells in battle, he's not actually saying anything. He's not speaking up.
Move it or die.
Notice, because you can distinctly hear Velvet and Rothero and Eizen. And Malak number 2 is casting, but nothing audible coming from him.
Who wants some next?
We're finished here. Let's go.
And also not participating in the post-battle conversations.
Don't get overconfident.
I wish I had power like that.
And it's open.
Let's meet up with the Von Eltia. Back to the docks.
I don't think we went out this way yet. Just want to check if there's anything out here. Aha! Worth the trip. A lot of effort to open the door, but I guess the door was correspondingly big. So, good for a sense of accomplishment.
I can't let you do that. This is my...
Oh no, he's so duty-bound! Oh, Mega Wall Fiend. Not the compass. Ooh, new tutorial. Alright. Mystic Arts, baby! Alright. Me love that. Never a bad time for a Mystic Art.
Demon blight again.
I call this an improvement.
The docks are swarming with demons. The Von Eltia will be overrun. Rats, we don't have long.
Eizen, can you signal for them to go through without stopping?
That'd keep them safe. But what about us?
We'll jump down onto it as it goes past. Is there another option? Eizen, give some kind of sign.
There's no need. The Von Eltia will sail through.
Without an order?
It was part of my plan. Welcome to the Ifried Way.
It's coming at full speed!
Let's get a move on then.
Will this really work?
Do you want the Reaper's reassurance?
Wait, what are you?
Oh no! Jesus.
Don't scare me like that.
I'm sorry. Yes! Nailed it! You're lucky Mommy around.
Let's go.
I remember we talked about how in Alicia's story, the DLC to Tales of Zestiria, the way in which Alicia was able to confront for a second time Simone's shadow projection of Maltran was a really interesting way of the series showing like a character working through trauma, processing it by trying to reenact it, and basically come to a better emotional understanding of it. And especially with this as a follow-up to Zestiria and Alicia's story, it's interesting to see that echoed with Velvet clearly trying to sort of work through her own experience at the loss of Laphicet and her kind of failure to protect him by reenacting it with this Malak. Yeah, it is an awe moment, isn't it, Pink Moon Neko? One of those heartwarming diamond in the rough moments that we were talking about that seem to be speckled throughout this game.
Nicely done!
You're not going to thank your savior for her crafty cannonballing?
Are you nuts? I told you to stay away from the cannons, not bang on them.
But it was fun! And everything worked out, right? I'm sorry.
If it's that important to you, keep it safe. You wouldn't want to lose it again.
Give it. I need to set a course. Fine. You read it for me then.
Oh.
Yeah.
But listen, kid. Give me one false reading and you're shark bait.
Better work hard.
What's Laphicet?
It's a name. Your name.
My name? Laphicet.
It's a fine name.
Well, it's no Magilu.
We're through the channel. Give us a course, Laphicet.
Aye, aye, sir. We're headed straight for Logris.
To the capital.
Now this is refreshing. Sailing into port like normal people.
Well done, boy. The sharks are gonna go hungry tonight. Yes, I'm glad.
This won't be a problem? Docking a pirate ship here?
So, how were the northern seas, Eizen?
Helavis and Vortigern are in ruins. Trade with Northgand will likely be disrupted for quite some time.
Well, I like the sound of that. I'll have to act quickly.
Any word of the captain?
Aye. It's an old rumor. But they say Captain Eifried was sent to Titania.
The island prison overseen by the exorcists, huh? We'll have to look into that.
I registered your vessel as one of our merchantmen, same as always. But even so, stay on guard. There's a grand ceremony being held in Logris. Lots of watchful eyes about.
I see. So they exchange information for mooring.
Information. For mooring?
Having the latest news gives merchants a chance to make favorable trades.
So it's worth protecting a pirate.
I bet Eizen and his crew have connections like this in nearly every port.
Not even the Abbey's iron decrees can withstand the force known as human greed. I see.
Don't bother going to Titania. You won't find Eifried there.
And how do you know that?
Because I escaped from there. And before I did, I heard something from the prisoners. They said Eifried was the only prisoner to ever get out alive, and that he was taken by an old exorcist named Melchior.
Lord Melchior is an elder legate at the Abbey. He should always be present at the headquarters.
Don't call him Lord.
Von Eifried's our captain. It's starting to look like his disappearance has connections with the highest levels of the Abbey.
Their headquarters should be in the capital, right? Yes, at the Royal Villa in Logris. I've never been there, though.
And Velvet, your business is with a man in the capital, right?
Looks like we're all headed to the same place.
I won't apologize for involving you.
Usually I'm the one who says that.
We made it to the capital, and all things considered, it did not take that long. I do find myself wondering where Edna is in all this, since
By the way,
she's Eizen's
there's
sister.
the little matter of your ship. My men brought her through
I don't
the gates
remember
door.
whether we end up getting an
Going to
explanation
use
for
her as a
that or not.
scouting vessel.
I imagine we ought to
Do
get
what you
one.
want. We stole it in the first place.
A scouting vessel.
I've assigned Benwick to her. He'll give you the details.
All right, friends. Well, I think that was a pretty good chunk of adventure we went on. We razed Helavis to the ground, got a boat, befriended Eizen, our dear friend, whom we get to know now in his pre-draconic form, which is fantastic. We went from facing off against Malak number 2 to bringing him under our wing, and now actually giving him a new sense of self and identity. I was going to say an identity all his own, but that's not quite true, is it? Given that Velvet seems to be projecting and informing her understanding of him, clearly based on her relationship with her brother Laphicet, whom he may or may not be, based on our understanding coming in from Zestiria of how Seraphim and presumably Malakim come to be. But I'm sure there is plenty more to unravel there, and I'm very much looking forward to it. A nice bit of adventure to think about Velvet's motives, the way that she's developing, especially now that she's kind of trying to square, I think, her new understanding of her revenge-driven self with her old identity as a big sister, which Laphicet seems to be recalling in her. So she's already, I think, I can feel it. You probably can too. She's being pulled into being a little more multidimensional than she wanted to be when she set out from Titania at the start of the adventure in the present time of the narrative. But I think that's going to make for some good adventures coming up, especially now that we have reached this place where the object of her revenge is rumored to be situated. Velvet versus Artorias. We are coming up on a confrontation that is 3 years in the making, and with some fresh blood and their own motivations and interests in the mix as well. Hey, Conservative. Yes, you arrived at the very end of the stream, but we do this Tales of Praxis adventure through the Namco Tales series every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern to 10. So if you love the storytelling of video games, you love digging into JRPGs as a narrative language, anything in between, that's what we're all about. That's what With a Terrible Fate is all about. And all of the VODs of these streams are also on our YouTube channel and plenty more on withaterriblefate.com. Thank you for popping in, though it was at the end. And Pink Moon Neko, my friend, shout out to you. Thank you for coming back, for chatting. It was great having you in the real life JRPG party and experiencing and talking through some of this stuff as we wound our way to the capital together. Grail, sorry you weren't able to make it to the end, my friend, but happy you were able to hang out for longer than you had originally expected. You are always a great asset to the live JRPG party conversation as well. Thank you sincerely from all of us at With a Terrible Fate. I'm Aaron Suduko, the founder of With a Terrible Fate. These adventures are only becoming more interesting and complex and nuanced, and I would say also illuminating as we add not just more content, but also more of these games in conversation with one another. That's definitely coming to the fore in Berseria already, not only with Zestiria, but with those really cool and unexpected Symphonia and Fantasia allusions in the middle of this stream. So plenty to chew on, and I have a feeling that's only going to continue as we go on. If you want to kick off your Friday evening, right, and get the weekend going with some thoughtful, literary, analytically oriented streaming, stop by here, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, more Tales of Praxis, more Tales of Berseria, and I'm going to start digging into some more writing and publication of analyses alongside all of this now that I'm wrapping my time with Tales of Vesperia, which has also given me a lot to think about. So once again, sincerely, thank you. You're the biggest part of what makes these adventures so rewarding and multidimensional, which is everything a great JRPG ought to be. I'll see you back here in a couple days. In the meantime, game on, my friends, and we'll be back soon. Cheers.